Now, let's begin with a general overview of what was happening from the perspective of client's character structure. Later on, we'll unpack the process in greater depth. The first thing Reich noticed was a cluster of impressions, behaviors, and defensive traits. Ironic and mocking smile, ironic tone of voice, suggesting a dismissive or superior stance. Restraint in expression, rigid withholding of inner life. Pseudo-vulnerability, superficial, performative emotional displays. Absence of genuine contact, emotional detachment. Attacks on the therapist, testing, mistrust, boundary challenges. All of these are manifestations of what we could call a defensive narcissistic structure, or in parts language, a cluster of protective parts working together. In therapy, this defensive structure allowed the client to devalue both the therapy and the therapist, maintaining a stance of superiority or irony, block the therapy's impact, evading contact or internal change, preserve a sense of autonomy, protecting against perceived intrusion, adapt to therapy while self-regulating, performing cooperation without vulnerability, maintain a safety mechanism, preventing deep emotional exposure. These were the immediate protective functions in therapy. But over time, as Reich worked with these defenses, deeper cracks began to form, revealing what these parts had been protecting all along. Eventually, the client made contact with the wounded layer: infantile fear, emotional neglect and deprivation, complex feelings of mistrust and abuse, deep abandonment. These core experiences gave rise to the very structure we saw above. In simple terms, the wounding came first, then the defense was built to protect against that wounding. Over time, the defense became an identity, one that now resists both healing and connection. To survive, the client developed a smile, first to appease the mother, then to shield from pain, and eventually as a way to project invincibility. Nothing can harm me, I'm immune. This is what we mean by the architecture of resistance. The same shield that once protected a child from overwhelming pain now stands in the way of healing. First, we observe the function of resistance within the present therapeutic setting. Then, we explore its historical role and its function as part of the psyche as a whole. This approach implies that by following the path of greatest resistance and paying close attention to it, we can be led directly to the core of the psyche and the underlying wounds the client needs to confront. At this stage, it becomes clear why Reich wrote, "Resistance, once a therapeutic obstruction, becomes the most powerful vehicle of psychotherapy. Instead of bypassing resistance or trying to break through it, we follow it, because it leads us to the core of the personality." When a therapist learns to work with resistance in this way, therapy becomes both more respectful and more effective. In fact, one of the key insights we'll return to again and again is this: the way a client resists the therapy is often the same way they resist themselves, and vice versa. Resistance isn't just what happens in session, it's a mirror of how the client moves through life, how they relate to their own inner world, and how they've adapted to survive. Before we move on, take a moment to reflect. What would have happened if Reich hadn't paid attention to the client's smile and irony, if he had tried to go straight to the pain, bypassing the resistance? Let it guide your thinking as we move forward.